Hi. Uh, I think we'll probably start. I hope you can hear my voice. My name is Huzaifa Sidhpurwala. I work with Red Hat as a senior product security engineer. And this talk is about Shellshock. Is there anybody in the room who doesn't know what Shellshock is? Okay. Right. So I have been working with Red Hat for a couple of years now. I am a part of a lot of upstream security teams. I'm a part of Mozilla, WebKit, PHP, LibreOffice, Python, and a couple of more which I can't remember. So I want to present this in a different form altogether. So probably we all know what Shellshock is and what it did. But what I want to start with is I want to start with the political part of security flaws, right? So this is a new era of security vulnerabilities. People are not only finding security flaws, the first thing which they do when they find a security flaw is to get a fancy name for it, to get a domain, to design a logo, to have a PR team which will talk with media, and they will try to coordinate media disclosure rather than doing coordinated disclosure with vendors who actually ship those packages, right? So I'm sure all of us know what Heartbleed is. This is probably one of the greatest and a flaw which affected OpenSSL, and probably it got a lot of media hype, and it got a lot of people into security engineering because inevitably you become famous when you find a small or a bigger security flaw. We all know what Poodle is. It's a flaw in a browser which can actually do a SSL downgrade. So as opposed to a flaw in SSL version 3, which is flawed by design, it is not a flaw in SSL version 3. Ghost is the latest vulnerability against get host by name in glibc. Again, it got a lot of hype in the media recently. Grinch is a flaw which was found during Christmas of this year, and it was supposed to be the Grinch who stole the Christmas. Luckily it did not, because it proved out to be a false positive, and we all could go onto our Christmas breaks without worrying about it. Last but not least, Shellshock is a vulnerability which affected Bash, and inevitably Bash is used on largest number of systems which are installed, right? So a little bit about Bash. It was written in 1980, which is 35 years back, right? And it is the most installed application on Linux systems. So if you install Linux, the first thing which you probably do is to install Bash. If you don't like Bash, then you probably shift on to KSH or CSH or something like that. But the first thing what a person would normally do after he installs Linux is he will install Bash. And unlike any other scripting language, it provides full-fledged scripting capabilities. A lot of system administrators sometimes prefer Bash to Perl because Perl is Perl, right? So people prefer Bash because it is much easier to use, it is easier to read, it is easier to change. So the basic purpose of Bash was to allow users to run commands interactively when they log into a machine, either remotely or say locally. However, its use diversified, right? And before Shellshock came out, most of us in our team, and we are a team of say around 23 folks with varied skills, and most of our people in our team did not know that Bash was used in such a variety of products which we use in everyday life. It is used in Git SVN, right? So when you do a Git commit or when you do an SVN commit, there are pre-commit and post-commit hooks, which are basically Bash scripts which will do useful things like, Git has a provision in which Git can send you a commit email to a person or a mailing list to tell him what commit went into the Git repo. Similarly, SVN does that, I think. So Bash is used in Git and SVN. Apache uses Bash. So if you are running mod CGI or if you are running mod CGID, and if your CGI scripts are Bash, then you are running Bash in the backend. DHCP also uses Bash. This came as a kind of shock, and actually media told us about it. So DHCP servers can set environment variables on DHCP clients, and DHCP clients can set the environment based on the variables which were set by the DHCP servers, right? So DHCP clients basically invoke bash in the backend to configure the systems. So if there is a vulnerability in bash, what it basically means is you go somewhere, connect to the DHCP server, and you get owned, right? Very, very simple, which very few people actually understand. A lot of embedded systems use use bash, and media told us about this as well. So a lot of cable companies provide set-top boxes, which which act as a decoder to the signals which come via the dish, and they use bash as well. A lot of non-Linux systems also use bash. So a lot of networking devices, a lot of network storage devices, and all of these devices somewhere in the backend they use bash. The flaw. So environment variables are commonly used to influence behavior of a program. This is very, very common, right? If you run Firefox, then Firefox is probably a shell script which sets a lot of environment variables and then goes and calls the binary behind it, and the binary knows how to change its behavior based on the environment variables which were set. So environment variables are really common. Now this is a special feature. Bash allows functions to be exported inside environment variables. So what you can basically do is you can create a bash function, you can put the function into an environment variable and you can export it, right? This sounds a bit strange, but later when we investigated, it was found out that there are a lot of system administrators who actually do this. So if you want to provide limited capabilities to a person, what you do is you export a function into the environment variable and you set the environment variable as soon as the user logs in. So he is able to run the function inside the environment variable, right? So this sounds a bit odd, but it is something which bash can allow you to do, and it is used in a lot of situations. So I'm sure you guys have seen this in media reports and everywhere. We wrote a blog about it. The blog inevitably got say 3 lakh hits in 2 days, and our blog went down around 7 times because we did not know so many people were basically interested. So this is a test case which I wrote. X is the environment variable, and there is a function. If you the 2 brackets which you see basically says that whatever comes after this is a function, and technically the function should end after the flower bracket. So there is a semicolon over there. So technically the function should end there. But if you put some code after the end of the function, and if you invoke bash, then your code runs first. So if you export x, and if you see x properly, it is a function and there is nothing inside the function at all. And after the end of the function, I have put some code, and then I try to invoke bash. And as soon as I invoke bash, I wanted to run this command called echo. This is a test. So technically, if there is no flaw, the only thing which should run is this is a test. But because there is a flaw, what the output which we get is first the extra commands which we put after the end of the function, they get executed, followed by the commands which actually should run, right? So this is the flaw. I'm not sure if you guys really got this, but yeah, it took us a while. It took us a while to get to this as well. So why is this bad? Because exporting a function when invoking a shell, right? A lot of infrastructure and cloud providers provide SSH onto a particular host, and there is something called SSH force command. So for guys who don't know what that is, SSH force command basically says that you can log into my machine, but after you log into my machine, this is the only command which you can run, right? So very common with cloud providers, which allow you to log into their virtual machines, and after logging in, you cannot do a ls or something like that. The only thing which you can do is probably copy something out or copy something in or something like that. So what basically happens is, if you use SSH force command, and if you have this a bash bug, you can bypass the force command and you can run any arbitrary command which you want to run, right? So this is a bad thing, especially if you are a cloud provider. It is especially bad for mod CGI. We did a survey of web servers on the internet which run mod CGI and bash scripts, and we thought we will not find any machines. But it seems like 15% of everybody who is running mod CGI on the internet, they use bash, right? Which is really, really bad. So this is especially bad if you are running mod CGI, because mod CGI calls bash in the backend. There are tons of other cases. Like I mentioned, a lot of network devices use bash, a lot of network storage devices use bash, and devices which can never be fixed. These are embedded devices, they use bash as well. So what is the fix? So this issue was reported to Red Hat before it went public. Florian is the person who works for our team. He wrote a patch, and the problem with this patch was it broke backward compatibility. What it basically means is it changed the way in which you would export a function inside an environment variable. None of the other vendors expressed any concerns onto what patch they want to use. So what we did was, in the interest of maintaining backward compatibility, we decided to use other patch which did not fix all of the issues. Shortly after the issue was public and the packages were pushed, a security researcher from Google told us and the world about another issue, and it was told publicly. This resulted in widespread panic on the internet, on the media, customers, vendors, and everybody. We decided that probably it was time to break backward compatibility this time. So we decided to use a patch which would probably fix other issues as well. Some vendors did not agree. Oracle did not agree also. And a couple of other vendors also did not agree. They did not agree with our patch which we proposed. They used their own patch and later regretted when several more flaws were found. So the fix basically says that when you want to export an environment, when you want to export a function into an environment variable, you put it into a different namespace, right? So if you want to declare a function called compute, you put it into a namespace which says bash func compute, right? And then you try to export that. That kind of solves most of the problems which we have seen. What did we learn? This is very important. Open source works only when people contribute. So some slides back, I just mentioned that none of the vendors actually expressed any interest, probably because they failed to understand the criticality of this flaw. I work for the security team. We have a mailing list which has got security contacts of all the distros. So security people working for different distros, we are subscribed to a mailing list. The mailing list is encrypted, of course. And strangely enough, what happens is none of the other vendors are really interested. So if there is an issue which is described on that mailing list, probably the only people who are really interested in the patch, who wants to review the patch, he wants to talk about this issue is Red Hat, which is kind of a bit strange. Very few other vendors agree to what we say, but then we still go ahead with what we said. The second takeaway from this is everybody likes to be a hero, but please learn what responsible disclosure is. This term is sometimes argued. What responsible disclosure basically means is if you have found a security flaw and if you don't have the technical ability to figure out how critical the flaw is, then please don't make it public ASAP, right? Please let somebody know. Send a mail to Linux distros, which is the mailing list which has got security contacts of various distributions, or let somebody from your company who is working on security know that you have found this flaw. In the worst case, let CERT know. CERT is an institution which is responsible for coordinating disclosures. At least let them know and let them figure out, right? And last thing, which is based on my own experiences, there needs to be a better way in Fedora to make sure the security updates reach out to customers as soon as possible. It took 2 weeks for Heartbleed to actually land into the Fedora stable repository. We send mails out on Fedora announce list saying that packages are not there in stable, but this is the Koji link which you can use and you can download and you can install on your own. The same thing happened with Shellshock as well. It took I think 1 week for the packages to actually land into the repository. And before that, we had to tell people that the packages have not landed, but here is a Koji link which you can pick up, you can download, and you can upgrade packages if you want. So there needs to be a better way to figure out how we are going to push packages to people who are using Fedora on their machine, or to make sure these packages reach stable as soon as possible. Yeah, and this was a short presentation. In the end, several CVEs were found after that. So after we found a bug and we fixed it, several CVEs were found. I don't know the exact count, but I think there were 5 or 6 issues which were found after that. I'm not sure if you know Michael Zaleski. Michael Zaleski is a researcher who works at Google. He wrote a fuzzer for Buzz, for Bash, and using the fuzzer he found 4 issues in half an hour. And then he said that I'm going to stop my fuzzer now because it's going to put a lot of stress on a lot of people if I let the fuzzer run. The good thing is, the way we fix Bash by putting environment variables into different namespaces, none of these issues really affect us because in the end it may crash Bash, but it's not going to be exploitable after that. Right? And keep calm and continue using Bash. I can take any questions if you have.
So you mentioned responsible disclosure. If I recall correctly, the past month, maybe Google decided to publish some issues in, I think, Microsoft products.
Yeah.
After the 90-day deadline.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, so his question is about this project Google runs, which is called Project Zero. And what they basically do at Project Zero is anybody who is working for Google and has some time, and inevitably these people have a lot of time. So what you can do is you can spend your time in finding security flaws with products which you have not made. And what you basically do is you give them a 90-day limit saying that I found a flaw in your product, you have 90 days to fix it, and if you don't fix it in 90 days, I'm going to make it public. So, and the strange thing is, they are doing this with Microsoft, they are doing this with Apple, they are doing this with Flash. Sometime back, they published an exploit about a glibc bug. I'm not sure how many people know about this. So there was a glibc bug sometime back, and the bug was that you could overwrite a null byte. Right, so you can take a byte whose value is 0 and you can take a random location in memory and you can write 0 on that particular location in that particular place. Right. When it came to us, we said that this is not exploitable because often writing 1 byte is not exploitable. Right, so we said it is not exploitable. They went back on it. They took six months. They wrote an exploit. They made the exploit public. And they put a public report on Bugzilla saying Red Hat, this is exploitable. Right. So strange thing is, everybody else gets a 90-day warning saying that your clock starts now, you have 90 days to fix it. And we did not get any warning at all. Right. So to answer your question, probably giving a 90-day warning is not bad. Normally 90 days should be enough for you to fix a flaw. And if you don't want to fix it, then probably it is not important enough to be fixed. But the thing is, if you have this project and if you are giving a 90-day warning to everybody, why not to us? Yes?
I often don't find a place to report security bugs for random open source projects. Can you tell what's the best approach or best practice for open source coders to have something to to be able to users can report?
Okay. So the question is, there are so many open source projects out there. It is sometimes difficult to figure out whom to contact if you have found a security flaw in the project which they run, right? What we normally do, because we work with upstream as well, right? And our first preference as a security team is to let upstream know that we have found this, and let's work together and fix this flaw. A lot of small projects which have 2 or 3 people don't really have a security contact. What we would normally do is we would contact the guy who did the last commit on the Git, right? So we assume that he's still alive and he's still active, right? And we tell him that I am from Red Hat Security. We have found a security flaw. Who is the right person to get in touch with? And either it is him because everybody else is, were born in 1800s, or it is somebody else. So he will normally tell us that you can tell me, or you can tell this person, or whatever. A lot of big projects like OpenSSL, Mozilla, and these projects have a security at the domainname.com email address where you can actually go and talk with them. In the end, if nothing works out, and if we ship that package as a part of RHEL or Fedora, and we ship a lot of components, like I think RHEL is made up of say 4,000 components, and Fedora is even more. If we ship it with RHEL or Fedora, you can get in touch with us, security@redhat.com. We can try to coordinate with those guys. In the end, if nothing works out, if nobody responds, then you can do what Google did. You can mail OSS security. This is an open source security mailing list where you can tell folks that you have found this issue. Normally, Mitre would assign a CVE ID to your issue, and then folks would know that this issue has been found and probably fixed or not fixed or whatever. Yes.
Is releasing security patches coordinated among distros? Because once the patches are released, then the flaw is public.
Yes. So one thing which we normally try to do. Now the problem with this mailing list called Linux distros is the guy who runs this list really gets angry at almost every second thing you try to tell him. Right. So the problem is what he is basically saying is that if the issue is critical, then please do not disclose this on this list. The reason is the list we had before that, there was a leak in that list, right? And this particular list is also GPG encrypted, but you never know. So we normally try to discuss it on Linux distros and try to give a patch to the vendors who are on it. And we try to give at least 2 weeks for people because fixing security issues is not really a fast thing, right? Because you need to fix a package, then it needs to go to QE, and then something is found and you respin it and something like that. So we normally try to put a patch on a mail and tell them that this is the patch which we intend to apply. It is going to go public 2 weeks from now, right? And let us know if you have any issues. And we also try to disclose. We also try to make sure that everybody is okay with the unembargo date. Some vendors are not happy if you unembargo on a Monday. Some are not happy when you unembargo on a Friday, right? So we try to coordinate that as well. Sometimes when the issue is critical and we don't want to discuss it, we try to send to the security context of those distros, like security@suse.de or security@debian.org and things like that. And we at least make sure that the major vendors know. That's it. I thought there would be a lot of questions, so I kept my presentation short. Yeah.
I have Fedora and Firefox always says something like my Flash plugin is unsecure.
You should not use Flash. Yeah.
Is it really dying or?
We all will be happy if it dies. So the problem with Adobe is if you are keeping on top of the security issues which have come out. Last week there was a Adobe Flash plugin issue, and they fixed like 7 CVEs, and then immediately 2 days after that they said we have found one more issue, and we will fix it next week. And I think yesterday or day before that they made another security advisory public, and in that I think they fixed 6 or 7 more CVEs. What is not killing Flash, sadly, is Chrome, right? Because they often bundle Flash with Chrome. So if you install the closed source version of Chromium, it has got bundled Flash, and they often work. Google often works with Adobe, and if they found a secure, so Google has got this large fuzzing infrastructure which has got like 40,000 machines in the back end. So if you have 40,000 machines, you can probably find a security flaw with any damn thing, right? So they are working with Adobe, and when they find security flaws, they are reported to Adobe, and they fix it, and they first give it to Google, and Google releases their new version of Chrome along with the Flash plugin which goes out on the same day. So that is probably something which is not killing it as soon as possible. But let's hope we move to something better.
I assume you're following all the security lists. What are the worst, 3 worst open source projects that were unlucky enough to have the most security?
Lot of people in this room will not be happy. So his question is, what are the 3 worst open source security projects from a security point of view? Right? Any guesses? Popular, yes. But the thing is, popular issues almost are never critical. Sorry? Sorry? Bind. Yeah. OpenSSL. Sorry. So OpenSSL.org has improved a lot after Heartbleed was found, exploited, and discussed. They did a lot of changes in the internal processes, and now they have a method of disclosing things in a better way, and they have a security policy now, and they finally have enough money to get their source code audited. And I think they earlier they had 1.5 headcounts, if I'm not wrong. I think they hired 1 person full time now. Earlier, if you send a ticket to rt.openssl.org, you would probably get a response in 10 years or something like that. It has improved a lot now. There is a guy who dedicatedly looks at OpenSSL tickets, and he'll try to at least give you a first response saying that I have looked at your issue. So it is much better now. Of course, it came big after Heartbleed, in which a lot of things happened and a lot of people donated money as well. Mozilla also, a lot of security flaws are found. The good thing about Mozilla is everything is very well disclosed, right? They are developers who are responsible for NSS part, Firefox part, and other stuff. Often there are very few leaks, right? The only leak probably is because it is an open source project, they tend to commit to their open source repository first and then release package afterwards. So there is a few day window in which, if you are smart enough, you can look at the patch, you can figure out what it is, and it is not really difficult. The patch has a bug number. If you are not part of the security team, if you click on it, you will get an access denied. So that means that is a security patch, right? So you look at that, and if you are smart enough, you figure out what actually caused it, right? But there are very few people who can actually do that, and most of them are trying to spend their time with OpenSSL. Xorg is also very bad. Okay, so recently we were working on 30 security flaws found in Xorg, and in the end, this guy who found security flaws with Xorg, the Xorg had to tell him, there are better projects where you can find security flaws. Why don't you consider looking at OpenSSL now? Questions? That's it? Yeah.
Why is there no security policy for Bash for internet-facing applications? Or a list of things which should be done. For example, for PowerShell, there is a list of things what you do if you use it in internet-facing application. For example, switch to restricted mode before you process data.
Yeah.
Restricted mode, if you tweak in the script the environment variables like path and so on to a specific location, then switch to restricted mode, then you don't have this kind of vulnerability.
Yeah. So the question is why there is no security policy which says that don't use Bash for this thing, or when you want.
Don't say don't use Bash for this. Why isn't the security mechanism in POSIX or POSIX shells used in mod?
Yeah. I guess a part of answer to your question is this is normally how a lot of open source projects work. Like when it was in back 30 years back when they wrote Bash, somebody else decided to use Bash for something else. And the problem with Bash is it is not well maintained. So when we try to contact upstream, there's only one person who makes commits and he looks at the code, and he has a full-time job. So during the daytime, he's not able to spend any time on bash. So only when he is at home in the evenings or in the mornings, then will he respond to us. He will do something like that. So I think part of the problem is it's a legacy to use bash for these kind of things. The second problem, which I think is sometimes people start to embed random things into their code. Probably the first person who used bash for something for accepting non-trusted inputs, mod CCGI. He probably never looked at bash to figure out if it was safe enough. Or he did not look at bash and conn shell and C shell and say let me not use bash because it does not have a mechanism like that. Let me use conn shell.
No, the point was that conn shell and bash have a restricted mode, which limits the availability of the commands and access to resources like other directories than the current working directory.
Yes. So his question is, bash and conn shell, they have a restricted mode, and if you run the shell in those restricted mode, then you have a limited set of commands which you can run. And answer is I have no idea. Really, sorry.
What about Git and the latest security issues with capital letters?
Is there a CV I did to this issue? I can't remember. I think we fixed that issue, if I'm not wrong, because I did not work with it. So this was the issue which affected Apple as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I did not work with that, but I think we fixed it in the end. Yes.
I don't have the knowledge, I don't have the skills. What can I do?
So we have this document called Defensive Security Guide. I think if I'm not wrong, it is up on docs.fedoraproject.org or something like that. It has some basic principles which you should know as a developer, and it touches all languages which are normally used. It's got something for C or PHP, Python, Java, and everything. So probably first step is to read that and try to figure out what is the best thing to do. It also has a section on cryptography, which which says that how you should use strong crypto and things like that. The second thing which I would strongly suggest is, if it is possible not to embed other software in your project, unless you really know that software has a strong security background, then try not to do that. If it is possible, if you want to link your software against other libraries, maybe say OpenSSL or libNSS or GNU-TLS or something like that, use a library which has got a good record of fixing security issues. If you have an option between 3 different components which you can link against, then try to use one which has got a very good record of fixing good security issues. Right?
SE-Linux is also a good idea to have.
Sorry?
SE-Linux is also one.
Yeah, but a lot of people tend to disable it.
Yeah.
No questions?
Still 5 minutes. So
Yes.
if there will be some questions.
Why do we continue to share security, the vulnerabilities with other vendors if they're not sharing anything back with us? It's not free, I think.
So the question is, why do we continue to share security vulnerability information with other vendors, despite of the fact that they probably don't respond, or they don't share their own issues, or whatever. I think this is a part of saying that we are open source, and we want to work in this ecosystem with other vendors. There is also Oracle on that list. They never shared any security issues with us. Some time back, we asked them, so they now control MySQL, right? We asked them some time back whether, can you exactly tell us what particular patch did you apply for MySQL for this CV ID? And we asked them around two years back, and they've still not told us what patches applied. So what we now do is, we download the newer tarball, the older tarball, we do a diff, okay, and we try to figure out best we can as to what particular CV ID is applicable to what particular patch. But I think to answer your question, we see it probably as our responsibility to vendors who ship the same open source components which we do. We kind of see it as a responsibility to let them know that, we have found this and we are going to make this public on so and so date. And here is a gift. If you want to use it, then feel free to patch your packages. Yes.
You said nobody cared about Shellshock except for Red Hat, right?
Yeah, there was one vendor who got back to us, and the only thing which he said was thank you.
Does it apply also to Debian? Do you know how Debian reacted?
So the good thing is, Debian security person works for us. So Florian Weimer, I think if I'm not misspelling his name, he does. He works for Debian security as well, and he's the guy who wrote the patch. So it's kind of difficult to figure out if he did it on his Red Hat time or Debian time or whatever. But in the end, if everything is good, then we don't care, right? You still have 3 more minutes. Yes.
Do you have some things how to push the patches or bug fixes to OpenSSL? You said that the situation with OpenSSL tracker improved and they are replying, but maybe that your email address is on some whitelist, so accept patches from you. But
yeah.
do
So.
you think that it will help if I forward bug fixes to you first? So we
No.
can send
So to give you an idea, I'm subscribed to 11 upstream projects, and there are various discussions which are happening on various lists, and I often don't read all of them. If you found a security flaw in OpenSSL, then you should definitely forward it to us. If it is a non-security flaw, then they have rt.openssl.org in which you can open a ticket. And currently they are a lot more responsive than they were some time back. So probably if you did not get a response in 24 hours, the person whom they hired died or something like that. So you probably will get a response. Like I tried doing it a couple of times and there were non-security fixes and he responded. And I did it with my Gmail address so that he would not know that I am working with Red Hat. So yes, they are a lot more responsive now. And they have a lot of money as well. So, yeah.
Basically, for new features, the difference is what the patch is, what the time is.
talking about bug fix. So
if it's bug fix, if it's really bug, if it's not
if
like
it's
something
memory corruption,
disputable, yeah, if it's bug, they should with the current situation, they should accept it very early.
I will keep them again.
Okay then. Time up. Thank you.
We have two topics. One is restricted mode shells. The other is the list Sun Microsystems sent to Chet Ramey in 2006, which contained the Shellshock bug, but also 18 other flaws, which are equally usable for remote execution.
Yeah.
Because Sun Microsystems updated from the original launcher, not Bash, the launcher, to Control 93.
Sorry?
Don't forget their microphone.
Okay.
And during that process, we evaluated first Bash and Control 93 and Dash and so on. And Bash was more or less thrown out of the competition.
Ahoj. Jo, já jsem nepil, tyjo. Bez.
To asi musí nastavit u sebe. Musím nastavit jiný poměr strán. Jo, to je lepší.
1024 jsem dal. Jo. Něco musím vědět ještě? Musím něco ještě vědět? Jo. Jasně.